peer support. um, I just got off work. Hmm. Uh, it was it's been um about about 5, almost 6 hours at the emergency room with 2 separate or patients, and it was definitely a different it was a different day. I didn't mind it at first because it was something different, but that's sitting in the waiting room in emergency is I had my intentional peer support manual with me to read. So um and then it's a matter of trying to keep the patients calm too, and but it was an exercise, and those are the kind of things you do in peer support, and um, sitting to have somebody sit with you in the emergency room is a big deal. And especially making sure you have someone calm sitting with you, because normally it's families, like there's a sick little boy, he was miserable, and it's usually a place where your family goes with you, and and the patients, they don't have their families with them in that instance. So you're trying to switch hats and being compassionate and just being kind of letting your hair down a little bit, and at the same time being their advocate. With one patient, she'd been waiting for quite a long time, and I had to go around and start asking some questions very politely about the process of the ER. you know, is this normal? What's the wait time? Is it normal? And it was explained to me that they only had one doctor on staff, and I did not realize that. And that poor guy, was really running ragged, um, doing referrals, doing consults with other doctors and everything. Um, so he had to um, what needed to be done. And the nurses were great, you know. And they were quick, to accommodate, when asked. And but like the whole experience was, maintaining your cool at the same, but at the same time trying to get to the bottom of things. And it was just an unusual night, you know. And so I came, I go into 3, but now I go into 4. I go in at 4, and so I actually had a full 8 hours, because I left at 12, um, instead of just having 7 hours, because I normally leave at 11. And then also I had to ask for help. I had to let my supervisor know that this was going, you know, this was going to take a little bit longer than they expected with this one patient, and that it's going to go into the next shift, and their arrangements needed to be made for my relief and everything, and making the assumption that I was going to stay over. And I have to be very cautious about that, because in my treatment plan, I can only work so many hours, for my well-being, so that I don't get to a level of stress that, because over if I work over the agreed upon hours, then my medication, my bipolar shot that I'm taking, it only gives me so much. It only releases so much, or it'll try to compensate and release more. And that would mean later on in the 14-day cycle, I won't have any. So I have to gauge my stress level, knowing what I can and can't do with my medication. And one more time, just being reminded that with a mental illness, and I'm not like everybody else, I have to be aware of what I can and can't do, and know that's what I can do. And that kind of ties in the handy biscuit method, and working my survey tape. The next question is, are you happy with your life the way it is? And the cornerstone of my life today is, I have to keep my life in balance with my medication. I can't push myself to where it doesn't jive with my medication. And that involves every area of my life. And especially, when it comes to like my relationships. I was spending some time with my relief, and it was great. It was great. We sat and talked, because we have this way about us that we connect, and that's the first task in the peer support is connection. And we just have this way of looking at each other, and like, so I'm just gonna get honest. Tell each other what is happening at that moment, or what we're going through and everything. And we have been like in such alignment, like we've had like the same same problems, the same, it's just like, really, you were going through that too. And we get a chance to laugh about it, because it's like, man, I'm not the only one. Sometimes, especially with this dating situations that I get myself into, I feel like I'm the only one doing this. And I don't ever want to disclose, but there's somebody else. There is somebody else going through it. Very similar, like they're alone. And so the corner, one of the tasks, reading in my intentional peer support group, it goes into the tasks of peer support, and I was studying this, but the task number one is connection. When you think about it, connection is the core of peer support. It is the magical moment when we realize that someone else gets it. And, I had that with my coworker today. And we haven't made it to having coffee yet. every time, we both work overnights. So, we just, we keep on saying we've got to have coffee to talk about this. And this is like the third solid time that we've just been able to smoke a cigarette together and just get real, and it's like it is in the beginning of building trust. And that's I even told her about making these YouTube videos. She goes, I need that release and everything. But often it does not last for long. And so that's the thing, there are just those moments that I have with that one coworker. And now it's gotten to a point where I got to make that, start making that effort to see her more often, in order to build more trust with her. We have to work at it. Notice when it's there and when it's not, and be willing to work at it. And like having that connection with someone. Am I happy with my life the way it is right now? And I'm blessed. Many connections. And but that's the thing. It's like every time I make a connection, there's more work involved to keep that connection alive. And like, perfect example here, um, doing the live feeds, you know, um, even if there's not going to be anyone listening, because I know that this goes to my YouTube channel and it's being recorded, and um, it's doing double duty. It's allowing me to make my video, so be on YouNow at the same time, just in case, to be available, to make another connection. Um, and it might not, every time I go live, I may not, but there have been times when I thought I wasn't, and I did, you know. So to keep saying that, and I'm not one, I'm not a broadcaster that's, trying to get likes, or I'm not a broadcaster that's trying to build, a large audience. I'm more into, making that one-on-one connection. And at the same time that I'm doing that, making, um, making a video that I can put in my mental health recovery folder. So that as part of the Viscit method, number one thing is for me to review it, to see what's coming out of my mouth and how am I communicating, but at the same building, having access to more peers, and um, making those peer support relationships. And even though I was tired, I'm just like, I'm trying to make it to like 2:30, because I need to meet up with someone that works overnights, and he takes his lunch at 3, and then I have to rebuild a connection. It's like that song. Says sometimes when we lose connection, we find ourselves in judgment. Maybe that person's mad at me. I can't believe he just did that. In order to reconnect, we have to try to understand the situation in terms of context. And what did he mean when he said that? And sometimes it means taking a deep breath and apologizing for our part in the disconnect. And that's pretty much what I'll be doing this evening if I can meet up with this person, is to acknowledge my part in the disconnect. And some of the things that one thing that I wrote down to answer the question, what are some of the things that cause you to disconnect? I put down, when I feel rejection, when someone wants to move on their path without my help, or they want to define the relationship, I usually disconnect. And that's a challenge for me because I have some, yeah, and it's probably faulty thinking, but I have in my idea of how a relationship, you know, what I think would be happy for that relationship. And I start envisioning um, all kinds of things with this person, with any person, especially if you don't make that connection, like with my coworker today, I've been hesitant about like going out and having coffee with her because I like her, you know. We have a lot in common, but it's like I'm really bad at female relationships, you know, female friendships. And then for me, it's always the question, well, friendship, is this going to be a work relationship? Is this be peer support? And what I see it going into, it's going to be more of a peer support relationship because she's coming up to me and she's noticing, like she can know, like she noticed when I put flyers out, like, oh, that's something that's got to be a Louisa project, so she mentioned that one of the flyers that I put out about, she said wanted to get with me and talk about that. So um it's one of those things that um, with females, I can get in like a real strong relationship with them, and before long, I'm like I'm enmeshed. Um, the peer that I have right now, that is also my best friend. Um, it's like to turn it off, knowing that these certain days of week, like when I'm off and I'm doing my volunteer work, you know, and at the same time, not it all be about her, you know, and make sure that my needs are being met at the same time that her needs are being met, and keeping that balance. And we work on it. We work on it constantly. We work on it daily. And to another female friend, it scares me, because, well, how is that going to work into the friendship that I already have? Now with men, I'm a little bit more I'm more willing to jump right in, and then I'm like, with men, I'm really willing to jump right in the pool, and like, a lot of times right then, and then realize, oh my goodness, I am like right in the thick of things, and I I guess with men, I don't proceed with caution as much as I do with women. Because what I've noticed in female relationships, I get so hurt when they don't work out. With men, if they don't work out, there's another one around the corner. So that doesn't work out. It's all good. um, but now I have a lot of like my peer support relationships with men have gone have have lasted years. My peer recovery coach is a man, and yeah, and now my social worker with the VA, I have like a 4-year relationship with him, but I've stopped seeing him in March. And I'm looking at finding another therapist, another social worker. Um, I kind of used him as a father figure when I was without having the presence of my dad. And now that my dad is back in my life, I don't have to work on that issue as much anymore. So I'm looking for another social worker slash counselor. Um, um, my job track. And so like all yeah, and it was talking about like with peer support, um, about peer support is intentional. And it says being intentional means that we come into the perfect purpose in mind. And what I found in some of the other support organizations that I've been in, they weren't, they were like, oh, just hang out. Well, that doesn't serve a purpose. It's not like a specific purpose, When one support group, I had, I'm a problem drinker. And um, so I support group to stop drinking. And I I have been alcohol free for over 11 years. Now, there's other areas of my life that are they're taking more precedence now. My mental, um, coming back from, three three bipolar episodes that happened in a 6-month period 4 years ago for me. Recovery from that. Now it's my turn to give back. And in this manual, it talks about that about giving and receiving. It says, what is peer support anyway? And what I highlighted is that, are you connecting with someone in a way that contributes to learning and growing? And that's what peer support is. And it's about giving and receiving. This might not sound like a big deal, but for many people, relationships have become all about getting, telling your problem story, and then getting help with it. There is little, if any, emphasis placed back. That's a big deal. Service relationships are like a one-way street, and both people's roles are clearly defined. But in regular relationships in your community, people give and take all the time. And no one is permanently on the taking side or the giving side. This exchange to people feeling okay about being vulnerable. needing help, as well as confident about what they're offering. For many of us, being the role of getter all the time has shaken our confidence, making us feel like we have nothing worthwhile to contribute. Peer support breaks that all down. It gets complicated somewhat, but modeling this kind of relationship in which both of us learn offers us the real practice we need in order to feel like a regular community member as opposed to an integrated mental patient. And I know in like my dating relationship, I was trying, like, I was learning about comics with him, and and it gave him a way to give back, give back, by making a fangirl. Yeah. So that's good. You know, creating a fangirl, creating another purchaser of comics his uh, for his dealer and stuff like that. But when it was time for me to give back, he wasn't interested in any of the things that I had to offer. He kind of stayed in this like support role, and he didn't get into the learning part of it. So, there were various opportunities that I brought up for us to learn together on on just what we do. And I'm gonna try to connect with him one more time on this peer support thing. And if it does not pan out, then I'm gonna let that relationship go. You know, um, because and wow, I'm gonna let it go. Um, because I'm getting to the point where um, I'm making efforts to stay connected with him and not being open to it, and I'm just going to be direct about it. And that's why I'm not fearful. I I just I have a sinking feeling about it. That's I do have I have a sinking feeling. Um, and I've been trying to keep a connection alive, and hopefully I can get this across to him, and I can be, I can keep alive. And this is kind of neat because, I am a NAMI connection facilitator. I'm like, it's what I do. It's just and it's just amazing how that I took in May, and it's been a little over 5 weeks now since I've had that training, and what has come from it, what I've been willing to do, um, as just from that one training. It's just snowballing, you know. And so the answer about am I happy with my life the way it is, and I am. I it's just such a new feeling. um I mean, what I was doing, this year, I've done so many different things, and they were all a result of trying to build connections. And but now I have literature that explains it, it simplifies it, and so um, it's just it's just one of those um, just one of those dear it's not actually a process. It's what you have to do to build relationships, maintain connections today. Um, what you have to do to be connected and be part of your community, or be part of it. Um, it's a little bit more than just showing up, you know. Um, there is more to it than a lot of people believe. Like, well, like church is a perfect example. If I go to church every Sunday, um, if I go to church every Sunday, right? How am I giving back? You know, am I just attending church, or am I following the principles that are being taught? And am I that caring neighbor? Am I reaching out to my community in that spirit? Um, to try to transition from attendance to being part of. And a lot of us don't make that extra. I was one of them, you know. Don't don't go that extra mile to make that connection with people in our different peer groups. Um, I did it because I didn't want to get involved, because I knew how time consuming it would be. I know the emotional um, the emotional stress, but what I was looking at was all the negatives, and I didn't realize what the positives are doing of doing something like that. Um, and until I realized the positive benefits, like I love it, you know. Um, um, I love being part of a cause, you know, and hopefully what I'm doing keeps one person from committing suicide. Just one. It would be what if one person just decides just as killing themselves. It's worth a lifetime of doing what I do. So, um, it's worth doing these tapes, and it's worth doing all of this. So, Fabio, you say no height or depth can separate you from God's love. That's true. Um, but going back to connection, it's say those words like you did, Fabio. But what are we doing? What what are we doing in our lives to make that statement true? Because there's a lot of people that feel isolated, feel separate from God. That's why we have people who abuse drugs, have people that kill themselves. That's why we have um, um, some mental illnesses. Um, why we have depression. Why we have um, PTSD. All those ailments. Because at some point, we as a people feel separate, and being God will take care of it is not enough. Now, showing God's love, that's a different story. And I believe that Jesus' ministry was a pure example of showing rather than saying. But that's a soapbox. We do not want to go. We don't want me. We don't want me to go down that path. I'm gonna keep it in mental health. um, like for me, like the connection that I have with music. I do love my music. And as a matter of fact, I love it so much. One of the benefits I did this week is about a week ago, uh, doing the trial for Pandora, my 60-day trial. I don't know how I lived without Pandora. It's like I just didn't know. And And Pandora has like brought a lot of happiness to my life, and that's what I love about you now. It just, I was on a broadcast and somebody was talking about his thumbprint and everything and how he wanted to share, he wanted to be able to see other people's thumbprints and stuff like that. And I went ahead at that moment, did a trial subscription and everything. And then, but I hadn't had, I didn't have a thumbprint yet. And, so he shared his. Since I didn't have a thumbprint of my own yet, I couldn't listen to his thumbprint. So, or I couldn't listen to his thumbprint. That was the end result. So I was like, well, I guess it's just, I might as well just do mine. Um, Live is doing a late broadcast. But he must be preparing for the weekend. I wonder if he's going to be doing a 24-hour a 24-hour broadcast for the weekend. But I I just, and it's the I'm part of the Pandora community, because now I have a thumbprint, and and what I had to do, to do that. And now, I get to share it with, people that that are interested in it. Um, and those are the things about my life that make it happy. And there's this, I have this chart. It's a happiness chart, and there's different things that you can do to do different levels of happiness, because there are different levels of happiness, and you can start on the low scale or you can start on the high scale. If I look at it, let me see if I can bring that up. I wonder if I'll do. There's like, oh, I wish I could find that chart. If I search images, I know what the chart. I hate to have lost that because it was such a good chart. Let me see if it's a happiness scale, maybe. I think that's it right there. Yeah, I found it. I better download this. Okay, it's a meta scales. Skimorhorns. And then put that in there. But that is a happiness chart. It is. I better save that to Pinterest. I will save that under learning community. Well, I'll put it under NAMI Apple. And I'll go ahead and print this. There we go. I guess 120 is good. Resource handout. Okay. And let's see here. I need to print at least 2 copies of those. But I'm printing that out so we can go over some of it for the next 15 minutes or so. So we can have at the end of the, because I'll have to be, go over it. Let me see if it's printed. It's Charles Scammahorn's happiness scale, a scale for measuring human happiness. And it has 14, actually it's 15 total because it's on a scale from 0 to 14. And it has, like, oh my goodness, my eyes. It's like can't read the small print, and then with the low lighting, but it has a group, like each one of the levels has a group, and then it has quality of the happiness sought by the person. Like 0, okay, HAPS 0 is relieved survival. So that's just like, just at 0, you're just at survival mode. It's just like when you're relieved. And the emotion, each one of these has names to it, but they're like Greek or something. But like you're surviving from some life. Gosh, this is when I know I need glasses. You're surviving from I wish I had some. Let me show you where I put my glasses. I have lost them now over for months. I need to clean up this one area that's supposed to be a desk, but I'm just like, just have stuff. And I think at one time I used to keep my glasses over here, but I have not. I could get a. Let me get my magnet. Okay. I got my magnifier. Went from when I used to collect stamps. Okay. Let's see if I can read it now. Okay, that's better. Okay. Okay. So the HAPS 0 is reveling riot. No. Relieved survival. And it is surviving from some life-threatening stressor. So the activities you can do is such as will bring about the survival of the physical body. So a lot of us, I know a lot of us in an addiction, that's when you do your addiction, just survive a physical stressor. Um, he's smoking a cigarette. You know, this is uh, this is a level. This is level 1 happiness. Level 0, as a matter of fact. Um, I'm just, my body needs nicotine to survive. Um, uh, and it has here listed a style, transitional behavior style in and it's still hard to read. And by feelings of a pleasure performing activities. I can't read what that one word is. Okay. Style and midway feelings of for pleasure in performing activities. In survival, survival such as flee, such as away, jerking away, fleeing, freezing, flashing, aggressions, and distractions. Don't we all do that? But that's a happiness level. It's a 0 happiness level, but it is a happiness level. And it says type of contentment at the fulfillment of the previously sought for a goal. Physical body is relatively unscathed. Environmental threats. So, like on the 0 scale of happiness, you just want to feel safe. And how often I know I have where I just do something because I just want to feel safe. But that's just an example of, starting off that's your base, being safe. What you do to feel safe. That's the start of happiness. And a lot of times, I don't, in the past, I'm such a thrill seeker in like relationships that I don't understand that, especially with men and women too, but that feeling of safe. And that goes back to connection with peer support, building trust, being safe, where your body started the happiness scale, and also the first task in peer support is building connection. So, this is it's all science. At the same time, there's a science to everything. It has to come down to application, what you can do on a day-to-day basis to actually make this stuff work. And that's the basis of social science. um, theories, processes with application. But I've always liked that chart because it's very definitive about what works. And if I can get a better pair of glasses, I can read it because there's a lot of information on there on an 8 by. I've always wanted to blow it up and make it a poster. And I have the means to do that today. I do have a printer that prints 11 by 14, so I'll have to put that on my to-do list and put it on the opposite wall. Because on this wall right here, I have my feelings wall, and then if I can if I can put that on 11, that happiness meta scale on an 11 by 14, I can put it right there. But to wrap up the biscuit method, I'm making this is part of the series that I've been doing on my YouTube channel under my playlist is mental health, and the question on my survey tape: are you happy with? How are you happy with your life the way it is? And I've been answering that for an hour and 12 minutes. So, a little bit more than a yes. But a hell yes. So I'm going to go ahead and... got a Skype call coming in. I go ahead and end this broadcast. It's good to do this tape, even though I was tired. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.